Hello everyone, this is Anshuman. I am making this video to just explain some minor changes that we're making in the curriculum, and I'll explain why the change as well. But before I do that, I have a disclaimer. We've assumed that complete beginner batches have people who are new to coding, and hence the entire curriculum is optimized to serve them. We do see that there are people in the batch who are exceptions to the rule, that is, they are experienced coders. Our first priority is, however, making sure people who are complete beginners they succeed in their careers and they make a great career for themselves. Hence, if you're somebody who is an experienced coder, then we will roll out a form later for you, which lets you switch to a different section if you want to. It is important that you learn with people who are at a similar stage as you, so that you also are able to learn from them, and we optimize the path for who you are. But let me go to the what is the objective? What do we really want to do? Like, when is scalar successful? For us, we know that we are only successful if you are successful. And what is the definition of that? Which means we have to make sure you get placement ready as soon as possible. Two, we don't have distractions. We keep things razor sharp focused, which means we have to arrange the curriculum in a form so that all the important stuff for interviews comes first. Lesser the things to remember, easier to succeed. I mean, think about if you have to remember a 4 digit pin versus a 40 digit pin, right? 4 digit pin is easier to remember. So that's the objective. Get your placement ready as soon as possible, keep things razor sharp focus, and still allow you to learn more things that anybody else would be learning in the scalar curriculum. So you're not going to be losing out on anything. But let me also go over some of the findings of what we heard from companies. First thing, DSA is very important. In fact, in some recent batches, what we have started seeing is people are not doing well in the initial hacker rank rounds. These are rounds where you have this login and you have limited time to solve a bunch of problems. And when we talk to people, we understand that they know the concept, but they're not just used to timed environment. So the change number one is what we're going to do is we will have regular contests every month done during the class timing, which means these are mandatory to attend. It is important to practice all the concepts done till date so that you don't forget and you're used to the time environment. You then like you take all the pressure today, you don't take pressure on that day. So that is change number one. The second thing that we heard from companies is that look, projects for beginners, complete beginners, is super important. At present, project is the last module, so we'll reorder some of this. I'll just talk about that. Third thing we heard from companies is SQL skills are very, very important. This is already happening, but I'm just re-stressing. And fourth thing we heard from them is that even for full stack engineer, backend engineer, front end engineer, in all cases, there is one area where there's going to be a heavier focus, either on front end or back end, depending on what the position is going to be. Hence, on each of those, we need to go deeper. And hence, it is important you choose one specialization and you go deep there. And sure, you have optionality of doing more if you want to, but choosing one, going deep there is super important. We also gathered feedback from some of the learners, and we heard that CS fundamentals, which is computer science fundamentals, was getting very theoretical and it needs to be more practical where it is merged with the use case. That's when you are able to absorb it. So we've taken that feedback. So now let me actually first summarize the change and then I'll take you through the change. Summary of the change. Nothing is being removed. I will, in fact, compare whatever existed before and what exists now. In fact, more things have been added, nothing has been removed. There is, however, reordering of what exists in the core curriculum versus what goes into electives. Um, Things that are important for the interviews are a part of core curriculum, rest are electives. Note that you can take all electives if you want to, so that you do not miss out on anything. Now, what I'll do is I'll walk you through these curriculum changes. All right, so the first part is and this is part of your core curriculum, which is where you learn a language. Nothing changes here. Whatever you're going through, you'll keep going through. No changes there. The second part is data structures and algorithms. Now, in the earlier version, what we used to do was we used to merge you with an intermediate. So there were again some topics that would get repeated. Then intermediate would get merged with advanced. So again, all of the topics done would be repeated once more. Because of that repetition, there was more time being spent on DSA across intermediate and advanced. We saw that there are a bunch of efficiencies that could be done, and we could rather spend the time that we save on practicing and doing more contests. So hence DSA, again, if you match the topics, no topic has changed, no topic has been reduced. All we have done is we have saved some time because of reducing repetitions, and we are instead using the time on doing contests instead, more practice instead. Every topic is covered. Now, post that, you have SQL module. Now, ideally, earlier you used to have a CS fundamental module. We've said we'll do SQL first. That is the most important thing, right? So we'll do that first. Everything else is also covered, by the way, but we'll do SQL first. That's where we do learn about all kind of SQL forms, and then we learn about transactions, indexing. So think of this as SQL plus databases. Post that. Now, what is most important for you if you're a complete beginner is learning about remaining computer science fundamentals, learning about low level design, and having a project. That's the most important part. HLD can be done later because that nobody would ever ask you in an interview. We will still do it, but later. But the first thing, order of priority is how do I make sure I do CS fundamentals, LLD first. I mean, and have a project ready and multiple projects ready. So, hence, the next step is we ask you, look, what do you like more? Do you like front end engineering more, which is you like building things on the browser more, or do you like back end engineering more? Once you choose that, then we go deeper into both. Within this, all computer science fundamental stuffs are also covered in both of these specialization. So what we've done is each of these specialization is 3 months. It combines what is important in CS fundamentals, what is important in low level design, and what is important in projects. So if you see again here, there are these green items that were not there in the curriculum before. These are extra topics that we've added so that we go deeper. So if you are going to do front end engineering, we will teach you HTML, CSS, JavaScript, advanced JavaScript concepts, JavaScript, or I mean, basically web architecture in some ways, which is you'll understand how do browsers work. We'll understand like what is DOM, how do you manipulate DOM, event handling, design patterns which are specific to front end, by the way, because back end and front end design patterns could be different. But what can you do in JavaScript? Git, React, Redux, how internet works. This is where you start learning about computer networks as well. But now you're doing it in the context of what you're learning. This is no more theoretical. It is in context. You learn API design, part of LLD. You learn deployment, part of project, and then you do a lot of machine coding case studies. There are at least four of them, which are these small projects which you quickly build. It's also like how some interview rounds are done. You learn testing, and finally you build a capstone project in front end. Now you have a very similar thing on backend as we did with frontend. Um, you have OOPS, object-oriented programming. You study about multi-threading. Depending on whether you came from Java or Python, advanced Java, Python concepts, and popular interview questions. It's a very quick thing there. Solid design patterns, UML diagrams, schema design, all of these LLD, and which finally also lead to projects. How internet works, where we also cover everything that is required for computer networks, API design, MVC frameworks, backend LLD, machine coding case studies, which is where you'll build a lot of small projects. Note that with a lot of design patterns, however, certain design patterns are not easily implemented in Python. Hence, a lot of the code examples that we would take would be from Java. if you came from the Python track, we'll also give you recording of things relevant to Python. However, if you're studying about design pattern, we've always recommended, even in the older curriculum, that you take Java as a reference for studying about design patterns, because Java as a language has more support for more design patterns. It's built with that. You also have unit testing, ORM deployment, Git, Spring Boot. By the way, like if again you come from Python track, so instead of Spring Boot, you do Django for Python. You also have MVC interview questions. That's the towards the end of the module where we go over interview questions that are related to the framework that you learned, which is Spring and Hibernate for Java and Django for Python. And finally, we build a capstone project. Post that, actually, so by this time, if you've done this, then you're ready for interviewing anywhere possible. This is very, very exhaustive. Post that, however, you have system design essentials. This is one part of HLD, but the entirety of high level design, entirety of system design is anyhow given to you as an elective. Nothing changes here. It is the same HLD that is done for everybody in intermediate and advanced as well. Think of, however, this 1 month as a placeholder. We're naming this system design essentials, but if we discover that there are more concepts that might actually increase your probability of success wherever you go, we might change a few topics here and there in this module. Remaining everything remains untouched. However, in this module, we might change that if there is proof that it actually increases your probability of success in the new company. So it has to come from the companies. So, however, for now we have put some placeholder topics here, which are basics of high-level design or system design. All of system design is anyhow done as the elective. You also have an elective 2 month elective on data engineering. Again, exactly the same content, same level of depth as is there for intermediate advanced or was there before. In earlier, this was specialization, which means if you chose data engineering, you couldn't have done projects. Now you can do both. So data engineering is a 2 month elective. You can actually take that elective as well. Advanced DA for competitive programming and PM for engineers. This is still continues to be the elective, 1 month, exactly the same as before. If you want, you can take all electives. Now, all of this is great. Now you might feel, oh wait, am I missing out on something? So just to put your mind at rest, what I'll also do is I'll take you through the old curriculum. And I'll show you like what it is in the new curriculum. Right? So in the old curriculum, you had introduction to programming. This remains exactly the same as I said before. Nothing changes here. Then you have DSA, intermediate and advanced. As I said before, the intermediate, you learn some concepts, they were repeated again in the advanced DSA, which was inefficient. Now we're merging those two and we're using the time saved to do more contests. So again, if you go over the topics, none of the topics have been skipped. Every topic is there, covered in the same kind of depth. Nothing has changed. All we've done is we made it more efficient. We're spending more time in contests and practice than actually doing more and more classes. uh, Post that, you will come at programming language internals. So, programming language internals. This is again covered in specialization in the new form now, backend and frontend both. If it is about Java, that is covered as part of backend specialization. If you're going to be specializing in frontend, then JavaScript is more important, and hence JavaScript related popular interview questions are prioritized more. On the CS fundamentals, you had SQL. This is covered in SQL module. You have multi-threading, which is covered in the backend specialization. How internet works, which is covered in both specialization. Again, note that like in the older version, we didn't have front-end specific topics at all. Now we have more of those. Now LLD, which was very specific to backend before, that continues to be there as part of the backend engineering specialization. However, if you were a front-end engineer in the past, this might not have been the most suitable path for you. So hence we have created a different one, which would require us different teachers. So it is actually a lot of new work for us, more work for us. But if that's the right thing for you, that is what we'll do. So right now, all of what you see here, this is already part of the backend engineering specialization. However, this is not suitable for somebody who wants to go deeper into front end. Hence, we've created a separate track with that. HLD is there exactly as it is with the same topics in the elective HLD elective. Project, again, if you see, there is some part which is part of backend engineering. Plus, we have added a few more topics to it to go deeper into backend engineering project. All parts of front end development, they are part of the front end engineering specialization. We've again added a few more topics. What we've seen is that there was some pieces, small topics. These are like 2 3 classes that were there, which were part of the front end specialization before, which is some introduction to Node.js, MongoDB backend architecture, which was to help you do the backend development stuff as well. Um, in the current case, these are the 3 topics that we have done away with because, again, keeping in mind the focus, which is we've rather added more front end engineering specific topics there so that you learn those are what is going to be asked. Why actually change the focus? Then, there in the older case, by the way, if you took, for example, projects, you couldn't have done data engineering specialization. Now you can. Now you can, data engineering is a elective. Now you can actually do data engineering as well if you want to as an elective. However, you don't need to wait for data engineering. You'll be unblocked for interviews way, way before that. However, if you want to become a data engineer, then you have to wait for the data engineering elective. DSA for competitive programming is the same elective. We don't do it differently for beginners versus the others. Product management for engineers is the same elective. We don't do it differently for beginners versus others. I'll again summarize the change. Look, we only become successful when you do. And hence, we have to be constantly thinking of how can we increase your probability of being successful. That only happens if we make sure we front load whatever is most important for you. And we understand what is most important for you is DSA with contest environment plus SQL plus LLD plus projects. Hence, that is what has been front ended, and everything else comes later. None of the topics are removed, everything is still there. Only depth of what is needed has been increased. What is not needed has been shifted to later. I hope that helps and helps you understand why we are doing what we're doing. Again, please understand we only have your interest at heart. If you're somebody who's not a beginner, you already have a lot of experience, please fill out the form that we will share so that we can shift you to an intermediate and advanced batch, because there you might want to have HLD done first before the projects. You might not need projects as much as complete beginners do. Thank you so much.